Welcome everybody to the Prescott Public Library Coffeehouse Concert Series. And we are so excited to be able to bring you performances with some of Arizona's finest singer-songwriters, and some are even coming from outside of Arizona, from as far as California. So I want to give a special shout out to the Friends of the Prescott Public Library who have so steadfastly supported our series. This is our third year, and normally we do these live, but because of COVID, we are trying to bring the concerts to you, and it's a little awkward, I have to say, to be filmed this way, but we're happy to be here, and I hope you just settle in and enjoy today's concert with Sue Harris. And I've been thinking a lot about our country, as I know many of us have. And many years ago, our family traveled around the U.S. in a fifth-wheel trailer. And I had an opportunity to see all of the, or some of the rich diversity of our country. And I wrote this tune called Under the Milky Way. So I bet you might find some places where you've been before. I'm gonna travel around this country. I'm gonna see the USA. I'm gonna pack my guitar, sleep out under the stars, and stare at the Milky Way. I'll wind through her hills and her valleys, think I'll drive from sea to sea. Watch the northern lights, a blue moon shining bright, wrap my arms around a redwood tree. Build campfires in the desert, hear those coyotes yip and howl. Watch the aspen quake by a mountain lake where the black bears hunt and prowl. It's fall and the leaves are turning, colors flame in the wild oak trees. I hear a bugling elk singing off by himself, catch a scent on a sudden breeze. I'm gonna stand on the banks of the Ohio, the Missouri, the mighty Mississippi. I'm gonna walk with Sal along the Erie Canal, hike the back trails and take a skinny dip. I'll pine in the Blue Ridge Mountains, pick some tunes in the Tennessee hills, fish the mountain streams. My life, it's a dream, I never ever get my fill. South Coast Highway, find some mangroves and manatees. I'm gonna dance around to those Zydeco sounds, eat some crawdads neath a live oak tree. With nature, she's just a wonder, so much beauty for us to see. All we got to stand tall, protect it all from the plunder, the waste, and the greed. You better get out and see your country, take a good look before it's gone. It ain't happened yet, but it's a mighty sure bet. We don't mend our ways, it won't last long. We don't mend our ways, it won't last long. Thank you. I know you're all clapping at home, even though the room is silent here. So it's my pleasure to invite Sue Harris to perform a wide variety of her fun-loving and humorous and cowboy and folk and a real mix of songs. And it's pretty appropriate that we're here in the library because Sue's mom was a librarian, and per Sue, her dad was kind of a ruckus-raising Texan. And Sue's always been in love with music, and as much as it's the music, it's also the stories. And I think you'll find that with so many of the singer-songwriters that are featured in this series. It's the opportunity to share with you the stories behind the music, but also the stories that are contained in the lyrics of the song. So I'm very excited to have Sue here, and she's traveled the state, and she's performed in a wide variety of different venues and all age levels. And so get comfy, and let's welcome Sue Harris.
Well, hey, it's really, really nice to be here. And Joe started our show with a really, really nice road song, and I'd like to do another kind of road song by my friend Pat Maloney. And I always think of it when I'm driving someplace, and it works as a road song for actual road, or maybe the road of life as well. It's called Pretty Little Mountain. Pretty little river, pretty little bridge, pretty little highway cutting over the ridge. It calls and crinkles like a maiden's smile. It curves and wrinkles for 1,000,000 miles. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. Pretty little Indian girl wearing moccasins, serving coffee and donuts at the Navajo Inn. Above the counter there hangs a sign, stop in and see us when you're passing through next time. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. A picture painted with care, each town a final destination till you get there. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. I got no problem with the master design, just wish the painter was a better friend of mine, or that he would at least leave me a sign, whether I should go or I should stay. Pretty little mountain, lone and looking blue, that's what the mist and the distance will do. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. The sun that dries my walking shoes after the sky has cleared, the trees that line the highway heads bowed in dripping tears. I can't help it if they seem like friends to me. I've learned to take their comfort and just leave the reasons be. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. All the slings and arrows that pierce the traveler's heart, where does freedom end and endless searching start? lonely pain and ache and beauty both walk the dotted line. The path that chases happiness gets more traveled all the time. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. So many smiles, so many friends, so many beginnings and so many ends. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. I hope you'll write me and I'll try to write back. And I hope you'll write me if I get on the wrong track. And I hope you'll fight me if I ever hold you back. Whether you should go or you should stay. Pretty little mountain far away, looking small. Maybe I won't have to go and climb it after all. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. What a way to go, what a wild way to wander the world. Virtual clapping going on right here in the studio. Well, I've got a thing for owls that started a number of years ago when we had a huge goldwater pine behind our house, and great horned owls used to nest there. And it was really wonderful to see them in the evenings and the mornings, and you could hear them hoo, 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 back and forth, usually early mornings. And then the pine tree died, and it had to be cut down, and I was so sad to lose my owls. And a couple years later, this little western screech owl showed up in the bushes right by my front door. And he would come and he'd hang out right there. He didn't seem to be scared. If I'd be going in and out of the house, I'd stop and talk to him, and he'd just sit there and watch me. And one of my friends suggested that his name was probably Yehudi, and I'm sure she was right. And Yehudi still comes, usually he shows up around the end of June every year, and he hangs out for a couple months, and then he goes off to wherever it is western screech owls go for the winter. But anyway, so for Yehudi and all the other owls, I'd like to do an owl song. And this, what kills me about this song, it's such a cool little song, but it's a little song. This is probably the shortest song I have ever encountered. And I wish it were longer, but it's not. But it's called Owl's Lullaby. The owls are flying, I hear them all crying through the curtains and treetops as they find their way home. With my feet on a limb, my eyes sad and lonely, singing who will talk to me, who will answer me, who knows why I sing, who knows the reason why I sing this lullaby, That's it. And there you have it. Well, I live in Phoenix, and we know how long the summer has been. Oh my Lord, and it's still hitting 100 degrees in October. But the mornings and the evenings are lovely now. And kind of made me think of this really, really pretty love song. This is in Hebrew. It's called Erev Shel Shoshanim, Evening of Roses. And it's so wonderfully romantic and just take my word for it, it's a romantic love song. So this is for our beautiful evenings that we have now. ערב של שושנים נצא נהר הבוסתן מור בשמים ולבונה לרגלך מפתן ערב של שושנים נצא נהר הבוסתן מור בשמים ולבונה לרגלך מפתן לילה יורד לארד ורוח שושן נושבה הווה ירחש לך שיר בלד זמר של אהבה שחר ומיונה ראשך מלא תללים פיקר הבוקר שושנה לכתפנו לי לילה יורד לאט ורוח שושן נושבה הווה אלחש לך שיר בלד זמר של אהבה זמר של אהבה זמר של אהבה Thank you. Assuming somebody clapped somewhere. I spent about 10 years teaching as a music specialist at a little private Jewish school. I had 2-year-olds up through 5th grade. And that's probably one of my favoriteest jobs I ever had. And the best part was talking to the kids, especially the littler ones who would just come up with the most wonderful things to say. And one of my favorite stories was this little 4-year-old boy, Nir, and he came up to me once and he had a little white pebble in his hand and he said, Miss Sue, I have something for you. It is a magic rock. And I said, a magic rock? Yes. I said, oh, Nir, you can't give me your magic rock. Oh, yes, Miss Sue, I want you to have it. And I said, well, what does it do? And he said, for me, it does nothing, but for you, you can't make stuff like that up. Well, maybe somebody can, but I didn't. Anyway, so this next song came from those years, and it is a song based on a Jewish folk tale about a little apple tree that was growing in the midst of a forest of tall, tall pine trees. And every night when the sun would go down and everything would get dark and the stars would come out, he would look up and it looked like the pine trees were holding stars in their branches. And he thought, oh, I want stars in my branches too. And every night he would pray for stars in his branches. The answers would come back, just wait, just wait. And the seasons came and went, and every night the prayer and every night the same answer, until one time when his apples grew ripe and one fell to the ground and broke open. And if you have ever cut an apple in half crosswise, you'll notice that the seed cavity is a perfect star. And he realized he had had stars in his branches all the time. And the message of the story is we all have stars in our branches. We just have to realize it and let them shine. So this is a song my friend Hannes Kavarin helped me write called Stars in My Branches. Winter winds blew cold and the branches of an apple tree turned up to the sky bare and stark. The lonely tree was restless and looking to the night, sent a silent song into the dark. Oh, I want stars in my branches, stars that I can touch. Stars in my branches, is that asking for too much? Nighttime sky must have a few that you can spare. Just a few you can share. But the answer came back, wait and see. Wait patiently. Springtime brought the flowers, summer brought the leaves. Branches were not empty anymore. But the tree sighed and said, I don't mean to be ungrateful, but there's something else that I was hoping for. Oh, I want stars in my branches, stars that I can touch. Stars in my branches, is that asking for too much? Nighttime sky must have a few that you can spare. Just a few that you can share. But the answer came back, wait and see. Wait patiently. Autumn brought the apples, ripe, red and round, but the tree was sad, its branches rustled with a mournful sound, until an apple fell and lay open on the ground. What had been there all along, the tree now finally found. Yes, there are stars in my branches, stars that I can touch. To have stars in my branches was not asking for too much. Nighttime sky, keep every star that ever shone. I have stars in my branches of my own. Nighttime sky, I should have guessed, I should have known. I have stars in my branches of my own. This is another star song from a poem written by a fellow named Arthur Guterman, I think in the 1920s. And it was put to music by a wonderful folk singer named Margaret MacArthur. And it's about all the stars that are in the sky. If you've ever been out at night in a place where you can actually see lots of stars, and notice that some of them form very nice pictures, but a whole lot of them are just kind of scattered all over the place. And maybe there's a reason for that, and maybe the reason is this story. It's called The Star Planter. Them stars, how often I've laid on the prairie and watched 'em go swooping around. My bronco a-dozing beside me, and nary a breeze nor a whisper of sound. I've learnt the main bunch of the heavenly ranches, like Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. Religion, he don't know its primary branches, what ain't been alone with the stars. Some clusters is branded the Dipper, the Lion, the Eagle, the Serpent, the Bear, the horns of the Bull, and the belt of Orion, and Cassio, what's her name's chair. But some of 'em's mavericks roaming the ranges, stampeded all over the sky. No part of the big panorama that changes from winter to summer. And why? Well, maybe it's gospel, and maybe he sold me, but here's the whole story at least. That big chief Saitola, he told to me the night of the corn planting feast. And here's what he said. When all of the mountains was set in their stations and threaded with canyons and rills, the star worlds, the last of the mighty creations, was laying in heaps on the hills, in masses of silver, of gold, and of copper, all polished and shining and new, poured out on the granite like corn from the hopper, awaiting their place in the blue. Well, first come the bear of the mountain who faces the north from his cave afar. He lifted his paws to the heavenly spaces and laid out his picture in stars. Then, over the peaks of the western dominion, the eagle who battles the storm flew up to the heavens on star-dusted pinions and printed the lines of his form. Next, that all the tribes and the nations should wonder, the buffalo leaped to the sky, that shag-headed bison whose valor is thunder emblazoned his image on high. Maybe it's gospel, and maybe he sold me, but here's the whole story at least. That big chief Saitola, he told to me the night of the corn planting feast. And then come Coyote, so crafty and clever, a scalawag all the way through. That yap-throated, critical varmint who never is pleased with what other folks do. Says he, them stars was intended to brighten the outermost reaches of night, and you go and use 'em in pictures to heighten your glory. And that isn't right, says he. I'll show you how stars should be planted. And he jumped in the glittering piles, and he leaped and he gambled and he danced and he rambled and scattered 'em millions of miles. So that's why they glimmer at 6s and 7s, stampeded all over the vault, a lasting disgrace to the orderly heavens, and it's all that Coyote chap's fault. Maybe it's gospel, and maybe he sold me, but there's the whole story at least. That big chief Saitola, he told to me the night of the corn planting feast. Well, for absolutely no reason at all, there is no logical path from that to this next song, except that I like it. So this is an old Cab Calloway song. It's Sunday, right? Everybody's having chicken dinner? Should be. Chicken, we like fried chicken, barbecue chicken. Won't you send it down the line? Chicken, we like fried chicken, barbecue chicken. Won't you send it down the line? Everybody's talking about chicken. Chicken is a popular word, but anywhere you go, you're bound to find a chicken ain't nothing but a bird. Some people call it a fowl. That's the story I've heard. Well, you can call it this and you can call it that, but a chicken ain't nothing but a bird. You can bake it, roast it, broil it, put it in a pan or a pot. Cook it with tomatoes, rice, or potatoes, but chicken is what you have got. It was a dish for old Caesar, also King Henry III. But Columbus was smart. He said, you can't fool me. me, 'cause a chicken ain't nothing but a bird. Chicken, we like fried chicken, barbecue chicken. Won't you send it down the line? Chicken, we like fried chicken, barbecue chicken. Won't you send it down the line? Well, I imagine a number of us of a certain age grew up watching Roy Rogers on TV, maybe at the movies, and maybe as we got older, we might have started reflecting on things and having questions. But there's no but. This is a poem written by my friend Jack DeWerf called Letter to Roy Rogers that may address one or two of those questions. Letter to Roy Rogers. Dear Roy, you've been my hero since I was 2 feet tall. Them good old cowboy movies that you made, I bet I've seen them all. I always thought that Trigger was the best horse I ever saw, and when you'd sing a song to Dale, oh, we'd all ooh and ah, and my, how fast that horse could run. Well, you'd chase that outlaw till you'd ride beside him, knock him off his horse, and then you'd both roll down that hill, and then there'd be an awful fight. But none could ever compare with you. You whipped him good, and you done it fair and square. I've seen you save the family ranch from the banker's evil scheme, and when the stagecoach driver got shot, you stopped the runaway team. You outsmarted thieves and rustlers, left them no recourse. You saved many a damsel in distress, but you only kissed your horse. I've seen you fight 3 bad men and never lose your hat. You always fought for what was right, and we admired that. Well, you didn't cuss or drink or smoke like all the bad guys did. And you made a lasting impression on many a little kid. They call you the king of the cowboys, and I reckon you've earned that name. But, well, lately something's been bothering me, and I sure wish you'd explain. See, I've never seen you fix a fence or haul a load of hay or shoe a horse or fix another fence or gather in a stray. In fact, I've never seen you do a lot of cowboy things. But then I guess that dirty work wasn't meant for kings. And maybe you have done these things, I don't know, I'll confess. And a movie about those menial tasks would be pretty boring, I guess. Yeah, they call you the king of the cowboy. A fact no one disputes, but just one time, I'd like to see some manure on those boots. So I'm going to follow that with, of all the hubris of a song, with the song I wrote. You hear the term Cowboy Up from time to time, meaning suck it up. And I'm not a big fan of whining, and so that's where this song came from. It may be the only cowboy song you ever heard that uses the word weenie as a rhyme, but it fits. You say that life has knocked you down and rubbed your wounds with salt. You've lost your job, your house, your dog, and none of it's your fault. Now you're sitting in the corner, all alone and feeling blue. Well, listen up, I'll tell you what to do. Cowboy up, don't be a weenie. Cowboy up, no magic genie's gonna take away your struggles and your strife. Oh, cowboy up, the sun is shining, so cowboy up and quit your whining. Finding your own luck's the way to get through life. horse you rode in on has put you on the ground. And that sweetie that you counted on is nowhere to be found. And now you're gluten intolerant, can't even have a beer. Well, listen while I whisper in your ear. Cowboy up, don't be a weenie. Cowboy up, no magic genie's gonna take away your struggles and your strife. Oh, cowboy up, the sun is shining, so cowboy up and quit your whining. Finding your own luck's the way to get through life. Life is often difficult. Life ain't always fair, but life is what we're living, boy, so get up off that chair. Stick a smile upon your face, there's music in the air. Listen, can't you feel it, don't you hear? Cowboy up, don't be a weenie. Cowboy up, no magic genie's gonna take away your struggles and your strife. Oh, cowboy up, the sun is shining, so cowboy up and quit your whining. Finding your own luck's the way to get through life. Finding your own luck's the way to get through life. Well, and we'll follow that bit of silliness with a bit of not silliness, I don't think. This being Sunday, this is a sort of a Sunday kind of poem written by my friend Ed Brown, who's one of my favorite cowboy poets, singer, songwriters, lives up in Manitoba. And this is called Trail to Virtue. I'd like to tell you about a dream I had. It's one I won't soon forget. In it, I met a stranger. I can see him yet mounted on that big rank stud, 3 wild-eyed broncs in tow. The packs they wore look heavy, and I just had to know, so I asked him where it was he was headed. He responded with a smile, said he'd tell me all about it if I'd ride with him a while. Well, we rode for miles on a level trail that flanked a valley floor, and he talked about the weather. Not a whole lot more. He seemed to be preoccupied with things going on around. A furtive glance, a careful study of sign upon the ground. As dusk approached, that trail turned sharp straight up the mountainside. Sure looked to me to be a place no mortal man could ride, so I suggested we unpack and camp, as it was coming night. All he said was, "Best snug the diamonds and pull your riggins tight, for that's a nasty climb we have ahead, and we're running out of day. You'll have to take my word for it. This ain't no place to stay." Well, that stallion must have been half goat, the way he scrambled up that scree, and the equal of those 3 under pack I know I'll never see. For what had looked to me to be a most intimidating slope, the stranger and his pack string were taken at a lope. And hey, after all, it was a dream, so I was equally well mounted on a horse with all the right stuff, exactly where it counted. As we reached the upper timbers where the trees began to thin, I reined my horse in for a rest and to look back where we'd been. What I saw down there had me wanting bad to climb up even higher. That valley we had just rode through had somehow turned to fire. What was really making my skin crawl, the way the sight of blowfly maggots often will, was what I saw and heard there on our back trail, right where it cut straight up the hill. Like some surly blue-tick coon dog on a dank and musky trail was the devil, every jump or two letting out a wail. I heard the stranger holler, "Don't show him any face! It's Satan! He struck our trail. There ain't no time to waste. Well, the trail kept getting steeper, and our mounts began to fail as their sharp-shod hooves kept scratching for some grip beneath the shale. That stallion slipped and skidded, and that poor trio under pack would gain a step ahead and then lose two sliding back. Don't ask me how we did it, but we finally made it up into the rocks. And the stranger pulled his stallion up and then began to talk. We got that devil beat for now. We can rest here for a spell. He'll squall and beller for a while, and then he'll head straight back to hell. He won't come up above the trees where there ain't no place to hide. He knows too well these misty slopes where God still likes to ride. But what I wanted now was answers, and commenced to ask for some. And I didn't have too long to wait till they began to come. The stranger said, I'll fill you in. But before we get too far, allow me to say a word about just where it is we are. These barren slopes are virtue, God's heavenly domain. That lush green valley, that was temptation, the devil's only game. By now, the stud had settled and quit pawing at the ground, and the stranger went to making introductions all around. He said, I'd like you to meet my horses, and let me tell you something of the burdens that they bear, and why, without 'em, you won't find me a-going anywhere. Oh, this first horse here is Faith, sometimes known as just believin'. He'll help you through life's valleys and the steep ravines of grievin'. But with his panniards full of doubt and fear and a top pack of deceit, I must confess, I often wonder just how it is he keeps his feet. A tail to him is humility, though he'll sometimes fight his head, and that devil on our back trail would sure love to see him dead. He's packing lots of vanity, pride, and a little superstition, a top pack of conceit beneath a mantle of ambition. Well, this last mare here is Honesty, and I still like her the best. Well, she's the one I'll often bell, just so's I can find the rest. But beneath her tarp is envy, greed, and a host of other sins. It requires the longest lash rope just to hold the crap all in. By now, I'm sure you're wondering how a buckaroo like me has come to own a string as fine as the stallion and these three. Well, truth be known, they ain't mine. I'm just leasing 'em from God. But come time to do the packing, well, the devil got that job, and he got to fill those boxes with all the evils of his choice. So when you're riding through temptation and on your back trail hear his voice, know he'd love to cut the lash in slings and set those demons free. So lay on spurs for that awful trail that leads above the trees. For the upper slopes of virtue are the only place to hide if the devil comes a-huntin' as you make that final ride. Well, being a folk singer, you gotta do something topical, right? And this song certainly fits today, even though it's from about 100 years ago. About all the stuff in the air and the water and the food that's going to do you in. And it's called Some Little Bug. In these days of indigestion, it is oftentimes the question as to what to eat and what to leave alone. For each microbe and bacillus has a different way to kill us, and in time they all will claim us for their own. There are germs of every kind in every food that you can find, and the microbes are upon the bill of fare. Drinking water's just as risky as the so-called deadly whiskey, and it's often a mistake to breathe the air. So some little bug is gonna find you someday. Some little bug will creep behind you someday. Then he'll call up his bug friends and all your trouble ends. Some little bug is gonna find you someday. Now the inviting green cucumber gets most everybody's number, while the green corn has a system all its own. Though the radish looks delicious, its behavior is quite vicious, and there'll be a doctor coming to your home. Eating lobsters cooked or plain is only flirting with ptomaine, while an oyster sometimes has a lot to say. And the clams you eat in chowder make the angels sing the louder. They know you will be with them right away. 'Cause some little bug is gonna find you someday. Some little bug will creep behind you someday. Then he'll call up his bug friends and all your trouble ends. Some little bug is gonna find you someday. Now when cold storage vaults I visit, I can only say, what is it makes poor mortals fill their systems with such stuff? Now for breakfast, prunes are dandy, if a stomach pump is handy, and your doctor can be found quite soon enough. Eat a plate of fine pig's knuckles, and the headstone cutter chuckles, and the gravedigger nakes a note upon his cuff. Eat that lovely red bologna, and you'll wear a wood kimono, and your relatives start scrapping for your stuff. 'Cause some little bug is gonna find you someday. Some little bug will creep behind you someday. Then he'll call up his bug friends and all your trouble ends. Some little bug is gonna find you someday. Now all these lovely foods will mix and float us across the river Styx, or start us climbing up the Milky Way. If you eat a bowl of chili, on your breast they'll place a lily, and the papers then will have nice things to say. If you drink your coffee black, use sugar in your tea, old Grim Reaper has a twinkle in his eye. Eat that juicy sliced pineapple, friends will gather in the chapel, and they won't be singing coming through the rye. 'Cause some little bug is gonna find you someday. Some little bug will creep behind you someday. Then he'll call up his bug friends and all your trouble ends. Some little bug is gonna find you someday. And along those lines, if you ever got asked to dinner by friends who maybe live out in the country and live off the land maybe a little more than you realized, you might want to be cautious. This is a song called Rabbit Dinner, written by a Canadian cowboy songwriter back in the 30s. His name was Hank Keene. One day a friend invited me to a rabbit dinner. He ate rabbit, I did too, we both ate like a sinner. I said, oh boy, that rabbit's good. He said, then have some more. There's plenty in the icebox. Last night my wife shot 4. We drank a bit and chatted some and talked about our habits. We soon cleaned out the whole icebox and ate the 4 whole rabbits. I thanked him for the rabbit meal and offered for to pay. He said, "Oh, no, it's nothing. We have rabbit every day." I asked his wife where she shot them. It was one of her joys. She said they come around each night and make a funny noise. Then when the rabbits make that sound, well, I stand by the door. Then when they get close enough, I pick off 3 or 4. I said, "My dear, I think you're wrong, 'cause rabbits don't make sounds." She said, "Well, these ones always do when they come on my grounds." I said, "If rabbits make a sound, I wish you'd show me how." She said, "They come around each night and go meow, meow." Well, I know times are difficult these days for a lot of us, so I'm going to leave you with a sort of take heart kind of a song written by my friend Ed Brown, and it's called "Why God Made Good Horses." There's something in the autumn leaves just before they blow away, like a lover's face who's telling you he's leaving. Or in that big old prairie sun just before he hits the sky, to take you somewhere closer to believing. But there's not one thing in this wide world to take you to goodbye, or make you feel much better once you're there. Or beyond that dusty sunset in the dark and empty sky, to say that maybe someone even cares. But dark as it looks tonight, I bet that sun will come up again tomorrow. That's why God made good horses, old friends and fishing poles, and whiskey to wash away the sorrow. Have you ever seen an old man with a smile upon his face, just moments before he leaves this life? Or a young woman blessed with health and beauty, who couldn't find happy if she tried? Have you watched the lazy circle of a hawk upon the wing, and wondered why he's having all the fun? Well, wondering ain't knowing, and knowing ain't believing, and the secret is there really isn't one. But dark as it looks tonight, I bet that sun will come up again tomorrow. That's why God made good horses, old friends and fishing holes, and whiskey to wash away the sorrow. Oh, dark as it looks tonight, I bet that old sun will come up again tomorrow. That's why God made good horses, old friends and fishing holes, and whiskey to wash away